Hi, this is Janos, this is Real World Audio, and we are talking about loudspeaker cabinets, loudspeaker design. If you watched my previous videos, then you have seen that I've done a lot of breakdown of loudspeakers, how do they work, their specifications are predictive of certain behavior, of certain usefulness, or I would say how to choose loudspeakers to your taste and to your satisfaction. But I have not gone very deep into how does that work and how you can choose it for yourself. So if you have been following my past videos for this week, for the last couple of days, then you know that I am about to try out the Cube Audio Fc8 wideband drivers, and for that I am choosing a cabinet for them, and I don't want to make this like a magical decision or like out of the blue. I want to involve all of you, and we are going to go through the process. What is in my mind? How do I choose a cabinet? And when that happens, this is not only about the cabinet in a vacuum. So now this is what I'm going to introduce now, and that's what we are going to follow for a few more episodes, is to how to choose something for you that works in your room. Because when you look at loudspeakers, they are really wonderfully designed cabinets, and however, a cabinet in itself, if you hear it at a room where they sound perfect, it does not necessarily mean that they will be perfect for your room, for your system, and for your listening preferences. So a lot of things are in consideration here for the room. A lot comes into account, like how bright your room is. Are there any treatments that prevent brightness? So do you have a lot of echo in your room, or is it like over dampened? So, for example, I have two very different rooms, and you will be all fortunate that I will be able to show you the differences of how the same loudspeaker sounds in a room, which is a really bright room that has a lot of hard reflective surfaces. So those videos you have seen yesterday, where I'm taking out the Fostex drivers from the void pipes, those were shot in my upstairs room, and there I have the entire side is basically glass. It's like glass door, glass window, and the front side of the room is covered with mirror, so with glass mirror, because that's my dance floor slash workout room. So so that's the purpose of the room. That's why there's so much there's a big mirror in there, and why there's the big glass there, so that I can go out to the lanai, to my balcony, and there's a balcony. That's why there's the big thing there. So that as a result, that room has a lot of high frequency reinforcement. So any loudspeaker there will behave extremely different from putting them here in this room, where I have, you see behind me, lots of records, and it's really good dampened. So if I'm clapping, it is nice and sharp, but there's no echoes, there's no extra ringing to it. It's really nice and controlled. So this is more like a balanced audio room, uh, really purposefully built for audio, while the upstairs room is something that you might find in an average living situation where you have not much room treatments. But I have to add though that upstairs I do have insulation in the wall, that soundproofing. So the front and the rear door, they are soundproof, so it offers a little bit of low frequency reinforcement. So basically the bass energy is not just making those walls like flap around, and they would flap because this is a double wall construction. So I have drywall. This is not concrete, this is not brick, because when you have concrete and brick or stone walls, like big strong firewalls, that provides you a very nice low frequency reinforcement. But if you don't have that, you have just a drywall, then forget about snappy low frequency energy like a nice church organ or something like that. Just it won't happen in your place. And even if you put in a subwoofer, it will just really bloat the low end, but no control, no tightness. So upstairs I have that added to those sides, but the other two sides is that mediocre drywall on one side, and the other side that's straight glass. So it's much more like an average situation. And so why did I tell that? I share that so that we will be able to experience. I will bring the speakers, try them upstairs, try them downstairs and here, and share what that vastly different room acoustics do to the sound. And apart from that, when you create a system, create a stereo system, first sit down in your room where the system will go, and take into account where that stereo is going to sit, where you are going to sit, how the sound will project, and you have to basically look at the whole frequency response graph, the frequency response curve of the loudspeaker to match your room, to match your expectations. So for example, the Cube Audio drivers, they have a very high energy at the top. So when we look at the 10 kilohertz plus region, they have like a plus 5 dB or more energy compared to the octaves below 10 kilohertz. So that means that they will be happy in this room down here in my living room, because it's nice and dampened, and I don't have the high frequencies, the 10 plus kilohertz bouncing around the room, making me crazy. So just by looking at those parameters, I can tell that these drivers work well in my living room, but upstairs they will be probably way too bright. And so that's one thing, that's one prediction. And when you are thinking about driver selection, if your room is already too bright, then they will be really bright for you, unless you have hearing damage in your ears for the high frequencies, because in that case that extra brightness will help you to finally hear that 10 plus kilohertz region that you cannot hear. So when you go and do your hearing test and it says you can't hear bad crap above 10 kilohertz, that's not true. You still can hear above 10 kilohertz. Just the sensitivity of your hearing has plummeted, has dropped so much that at the regular level that information is carried in regular music, regular sound, it doesn't register anymore. But if you have a lot of extra help, you will hear it again. It will cross the threshold of your hearing. And so that's one thing that you can take into consideration when choosing a driver. Now, the other thing is that one thing was high frequency, and the other is the bass, the low end. And a lot of issues that people are having is not just like how to get low extension in my room. What I have noticed, most of my audio friends most of them, the problem was out of control mid bass. That's the greatest problem of audiophiles, of serious audiophiles. In the very beginning of your journey, of your audio journey, the challenge is to get low energy, to get the mid bass energy, to get deep bass. That's when you go from the really entry level to a more of an intermediate level audio. But when you are in that intermediate level phase in your audio journey, then most people's problems is how to get that out of control mid bass to behave for you. And one aspect is like trying to work with your room. Other is like trying to use some sort of EQ, maybe like using a graphic EQ or DSP. Both are exactly the same thing, just achieve results with different mechanisms. That's another thing, but you could go more like the smart way and choose the output of your loudspeaker cabinet so that the mid bass is energy output matches the room's reinforcement. So if your room has too much mid bass, adds too much mid bass energy to the sound, then calculate the cabinet in such a way that it does not boost the mid bass. You can drop the mid bass a couple dBs down, and as a result, as the room gives you the extra reinforcement, it will bring it up to level instead of blowing it out of proportion. And the nice thing is that that can be done by changing the port tuning. So when you tune your port to a lower frequency, what happens is not just that your extension of your loudspeaker is going like deeper and deeper. So instead of, let's say, like 40 hertz, you can get like down to 35 hertz, maybe 30 hertz. It's not magically increasing it because the total energy output of your system remains the same. Just the distribution of the energy changes when you decrease the port tuning. So what will happen is that the majority of energy, instead of the mid bass, it will be funneled down to the deep bass. And now, if your room supports mid bass and supports deep bass, then this is what you want to do, and that will greatly enhance your experience and the capabilities of your loudspeaker. And you can get to that situation that you do not need neither the subwoofer, neither the EQ, because your main speakers now can cover the deep bass as well, and you got rid of the out of control mid bass. So if that's your situation, you're fighting mid bass, then tuning your loudspeaker to a lower frequency will be your most, probably your best choice. And I will play around with that. And this was just my monologue, my one-sided dialogue. And we are going at the next episode to look at WinISD, the computer simulations. So I took the data that is on Cube Audio's website, the TLS parameters, punched it into WinISD, which is a modeling software, and also looked at the bass reflex cabinet design that Cube Audio has, and also punched in those parameters into WinISD and looked at so now what we are going to do is look at the simulation that WinISD gives for the Cube Audio bass reflex cabinet with the FC8 driver, and I'm going to show you how what the cabinet does according to the simulation, which is not the reality. It's just a baseline for you, and then I'm going to play around with the cabinet size and the port tuning, and we are going to see how the behavior changes. So for example, if you have the bass reflex, Cube Audio bass reflex cabinets in your home, and your problem is that you are getting too much mid bass, but you want a little bit, then by redesigning the cabinet or the tuning of the port, then you can flip that situation to the reverse, so you can get the mid bass in control and extend the deep frequency capability of your cabinet. And as you see on the Cube Audio website, they give a range for the port, like how long the port should be in the cabinet. And I'm also going to have a look at that, what changes when you go from the minimum recommended 50 millimeter port length to the 75 millimeter port length. And depending on your room, because this works for most rooms, but you might have an extreme situation. So what happens if you go even shorter than 50 millimeter or longer than the 75 millimeters? So we are going to have a little look at that. So thank you for tuning in, and I really hope that you are very much looking forward to the next episode. Please like, subscribe, have an awesome day. Bye bye.